Well, if last week's snowstorm is any indication, you know that we spend a great deal of time talking about how we get around our cities. And of course, even 10, 11 days following the snowstorm of last week, we're still hearing conversations about challenges in various parts of the city with what the plow left behind, or the windrows here, or the windrows there, whatever the case may be. It is something that impacts our everyday life, at least when that life includes leaving the house to get somewhere. And in the bigger pictures, cities across this country, around this world, are trying to figure out ways to move people through their communities in the decades ahead. And so when we look just down Highway 7, and it's not lost on me that I just made a reference to a road, to the city of Guelph, we see a new transportation master plan having been adopted there. And for a closer look at what that looks like, we're joined by the mayor of Guelph, Cam Guthrie. Mayor Guthrie, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks very much for making the time, because I really do find these interesting, if not outright fascinating conversations, trying to figure out how we're going to move the people within our cities in the years and decades ahead. So when it comes to the Transportation Master Plan approved by Council in Guelph earlier this week, what does it look to do? What are you hoping to achieve with it?
Yeah, thank you. I think I would start just by laying the foundational sort of issue, which is Guelph is one of the fastest growing cities in Canada, and the province, under their growth plans, is wanting us to accept 50 to 60,000 more people here by 2051. And so that lays the foundation of, okay, we're going to have 50, 60,000 more people here. Not only do we have to find a place where they have to live, not only do we have to accommodate jobs for them, but how are they going to move around? And that's the fundamental question from that is we cannot look at our city. In fact, we shouldn't be looking at any cities, in my opinion, with only accommodating the car. And so council approved a new transportation master plan, and it's a vision. You're casting this vision and this overall strategy out to 2051, which is where the growth plans of the province want us to meet. And we're saying we want to have a resilient and sustainable plan for transportation as well that is not focused on the car. So other modes of transportation, whether that be bike or transit or trails, better complete street systems in the city to encourage people to not only be taking the automobile as they move about our city.
And that really is the crux of this. And it was one of the highlights that really caught my eye. The hope is through this plan that you will achieve a quote unquote non-auto modal share target of 42%. So by 2051, more than 40% of the trips taken in Guelph, it is hoped that they will be taken by some other means than an automobile.
Correct. And so what we have to do is we have to start to plan our streets and our transportation systems in a completely different way. And this does as well, and I don't know, I hope I'm not jumping ahead on your questions here, but what this does is it also not only makes it safer for people, because we're going to adopt a Vision Zero brand for our city to make sure that we're making it safe for everyone, but easy for everyone to choose to not use their automobile. And I think that's the crux of this issue as well, is that when you have systems in place of choice, it makes it much easier for people to choose on a day or many days or all days throughout the year that they can choose not to use their vehicle when they can get around our city without that. It's also way better for the taxpayer, way better. If we only accommodated the automobile for our city and that growth up to 2051, we would probably be spending upwards of up to $100 million more in road networks for the taxpayer. So doing it in this way, by still accommodating some growth and some widening of streets that, yes, will probably have to be accommodated for cars because of the amount of people coming here, but accommodating all the other modes of active transportation that people could embrace and choose to use, we're going to save people money.
So one of the things, let's focus, because I think there are two pieces here. Certainly the active transportation, and then there's the transit. And when it comes to transit, people often hear, Mayor Guthrie, that it's not frequent enough and it's not fast enough. So does this plan improve both of those scores in Guelph?
Yes, and so what we did just in December, Council actually approved a 10-year strategic transit plan that will include lots of investments in our transit system, including new routes, new frequency, and to make the experience that much better. Again, I come back to that word choice. If the transit system in town is reliable and frequent and a better experience, then people will start to choose that as the option that they can use to get around. So the same applies to other modes of transportation, and that's what the transportation policy that we approved this week does for transit, of course, to accommodate that, or for other modes of transportation like bicycles, walking, using our trail systems, and so on.
Right. And then so those targets look to be about 10 to 15% of trips taken either by bicycle or on foot. And again, just listening to conversations we've had about these very sorts of things in communities right in our listening area, we often hear about a day like today. Let's use that by way of example, where the wind chill is around minus 20. Less likely for someone to hop on a bicycle on a day like today, or even take a walk on a day like today, given the weather conditions. So how do we improve that modal share when, last time I checked, Guelph is still going to have winters every year?
Yeah, I tried to put that in the budget as well, to not allow any winter to come to Guelph, but that didn't pass.
Oh, damn! You'd get my vote on that one in no time flat. I'll tell you that.
That's right. Well, look, you raised a good point. It's totally valid. It's not lost on me and many others either. However, there is infrastructure for, let's pick bicycling as an example, where instead of a painted white line on the road, you actually have separated bicycle infrastructure. And it's actually done in a way that allows for the operations of our equipment, of municipal equipment, to clear those lanes as well from snow. To then, again, it allows a better choice for someone that, yes, even though it's cold, they may still choose to use their bike to get to work because the infrastructure is there for them. When it's not safe, when there is no separated infrastructure, that's why you're not seeing many people on the roads, because I wouldn't do it either. So you need to have the right infrastructure, but also the right operating, keeping them clear of debris, of snow, and making it accessible for people to use, which will, again, increase the amount of people's courage, I guess I could say that word, to use it even on a cold day.
So with this master plan now approved, what can folks expect by way of implementation of what's contained in that plan? What will we see beginning to happen in the city of Guelph?
So the next couple of phases are going to be guidelines and guidebooks that specifically talk to complete streets as we either build new, or if we have to repair or renovate some of the areas within the city that are happening with our streets. The second thing I would say is we're going to have a dedicated policy around goods movement. Just because we're talking about sort of people going to and from work or whatever, which is important, we have to remember too that especially for Guelph, we're high in manufacturing and innovation, and we've got a lot of trucks that have to go through and for their deliveries. And so we need to make sure that we accommodate that as well, because that's economic development as we do that. And then the third thing I would say is this: you're going to see the budgets be every year at City of Guelph. You're going to see budgets reflect the policy that council has adopted and or other options to speed those up. And I'm looking forward to those discussions every year.
Mayor Guthrie, appreciate the time on the show today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Cam Guthrie is the mayor of the city of Guelph. The city has adopted its latest transportation master plan. And to be clear, this gives us the talking point, because the plan adopted in Guelph is not entirely unlike plans in other communities, including this one. I confess to not knowing off the top of my head what the goals are within our transportation master plan for the non-auto modal share targets. But I think the number in Guelph is interesting. I don't suspect we're all that different here in the region of Waterloo.